York's classic rock, Q1043.
I welcome back to Sunstein Sunday Karen Pearl. She's the president and CEO of one of the most remarkable organizations in all of New York City, God's Love We Deliver, which started during the AIDS crisis in the 80s when people didn't know how you got AIDS and they were terrified to even be with anyone who had AIDS. And this fine organization launched and delivered meals to AIDS patients. Now, so many years later, they are still delivering nutritious and meals that are medically inclined for the patient that needs them, for people who are either too sick to shop or to cook. Basically, this wonderful organization has now provided, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I forgot the number, over 30 million meals.
This spring, we will be celebrating the 30 millionth meal that we are delivering. It's pretty remarkable.
It is, and it's growing every year. And the reason I asked Karen to join us today is because the 6th annual Love Rocks NYC concert is coming up Thursday. It is sold out. Can people see it online?
Yes, we will be able to see it online, and people need to go to the website for the concert, which is loverocksnyc.com, and go online and they'll send you the link.
Do you make a donation, or
we're having a donation as a suggestion?
Wow.
Every $20 somebody donates is 2 meals. Feed somebody lunch and dinner that day. So we're hoping people will participate and will donate, but it's not a requirement.
That's fantastic. And review the incredible lineup for us, because every year it gets better and bigger.
It's an amazing concert, and I can say that because, frankly, it's our executive producers who put it together. So I'm very, very proud to be the beneficiary of the concert, and it's the lineup every year is phenomenal. This year is no exception. We have some returning artists and some new artists to us, not new to the world. Obviously, everybody is pretty well known. So I don't think he'll go first, but top of the list is Keith Richards, and he is bringing back for the first time in about 30 years. There's a lot of 30s in this conversation. The X-Pensive Winos, which was a band he played with before the Stones. And there's Debbie Harry and Mavis Staples and Hozier and Warren Haynes and Melissa Etheridge and Larkin Poe, Celeste, Jimmy Vivino. The list goes on. It's going to be a long and fabulous concert.
Yeah, these concerts go on and on. What hour of the morning do they generally end? Because
they usually end around midnight.
Okay.
But what's so great about what the producers do with the true amazing talent of Will Lee, who is the musical director and band leader, is they have this kind of flow where somebody comes out and joins another artist and they do a duet, which rarely happens. And then that person may leave and they do 1 or 2 of their own things, and then somebody joins them. So you get music that you don't hear other places, and you really see the artists at their, most musical, because they are doing some new things for the audience, for everybody at the Beacon Theater. So it's a fabulous night.
I had heard that God's Love We Deliver actually started with one woman's moment of kindness, one person. Tell us about her.
It's a wonderful story, actually. And I was going to say in your introduction, which was very kind, Shelley, thank you. We learned a lot being in a pandemic, and I'll come back to the story, but here we are in another pandemic, building on what we learned in those early years to what we're able to do today, which of course is much bigger, because God's Love did start with one woman on her bicycle, delivering groceries actually to a man who was unfortunately dying of AIDS. And they got into a great conversation. Her name was Ganga Stone, and Ganga left the groceries on the counter, and she kind of took a little shine to this person. And his name was Richard. And she went back to see Richard the next day just to check in on him. And he was really mad because he said, what am I supposed to do with these groceries? I can't get out of bed. And she said, light bulb moment, right? When people are that sick, they don't need groceries, they need meals. And the meals have to look delicious, they have to smell delicious, they have to be delicious. And from then started cooking meals, originally from restaurants, and then in her home kitchen, and then eventually in a small kitchen. And we went from literally 50 meals a week to 10,000 a day, where we are now, to 2.6 million meals this year. So we built on everything that Ganga had learned and some principles she put in place, like we're never going to have a waiting list. When you are sick and you are hungry, that is a crisis, and we have to respond urgently. And so we don't, if you qualify for our program, we don't say, sorry, slots are full, got to come back next week. We say, okay, we're going to be there. We're going to get you a meal. And we're going to do that even before you have your paperwork in, because guess what? We know you're sick and we know you need to have food from us. And so we are really very, very focused on what our clients need. And that's how we got to medically tailoring meals. We do the right meal for that person based on their diagnosis or multiple diagnoses, based on their allergies, their medicines, side effects, because what we want people to do is to eat. We want to nourish. And it's really hard when you're sick to eat things that don't go down really well. So everything is tailored. So when we say 30 million meals, what's most remarkable isn't just the big number. It's that there are 30 million meals that have been designed with each client in mind by our nutritionists.
I'm speaking with Karen Pearl. She's the president and CEO of God's Love We Deliver, which delivers ready cooked meals for people who are too sick to shop, too sick to cook for themselves, and they're medically tailored to all the patients. How do people qualify for God's Love We Deliver, and how do they reach out to you?
Right. So I'm going to make it simple because it is relatively simple. You need to have a medical diagnosis that a medical professional can attest to after you contact us. And you need to have some what we call activities of daily living that makes it impossible for you or very, very difficult for you to shop or cook. So you can't carry, you can't lift, you can't walk, you can't stand. Think about what you do from an activity perspective to get groceries and then to cook. You have to stand at a stove. You have to be able to lift sometimes heavy pots. So if you can't do things like that and you have a diagnosis, you will qualify. And that's the easiest way that I can describe it. So how do we hear about people? Lots of ways. Some people call us. Sometimes a family member calls us. Sometimes somebody like a therapist or a doctor or a treatment center will call us. Sometimes a health plan or a hospital will refer someone. We are very connected to the medical community that obviously is dealing with the people we serve because they're all very sick. And we accept referrals from any of those places, from the individual through, the health plan and everything in between. And then we talk with the person. If they do have a diagnosis and they have a problem cooking and shopping, we then make sure they talk with our nutritionist who plans their meals. And then our kitchen cooks them. They get packaged and get home delivered right to their front door.
Your concert, your 6th annual Love Rocks NYC concert comes pretty much exactly 2 years after the pandemic shutdown began, like 2 years to the day. That whole thing had to have been, throwing you a curveball, not just because of the need, but because of the restrictions and the fear of people who are helping you out with delivering these meals. How did you handle that? How did that all work?
Shelley, that's a great question. When the pandemic hit, we got inundated with referrals. Literally, the first weekend, we got 3,500 people who called seeking help. And so we just put a lot of temporary staff together to deal with everybody on the phone and got people onto our program. But COVID required us to change almost everything about how we operate, from people working from home, which we hadn't done, but more than half of our staff cannot work from home. They have to show up because they have to cook, they have to package, they have to deliver. So we put in over the time many different COVID protocols, but it all goes back to keeping everybody as safe as possible, our staff, our volunteers, and our clients. So we didn't have vaccines at the beginning, but now we do, and everybody has to be vaccinated and wear a mask. And initially we had to have not only social distancing, but only half the number of people in the building. And we had to arrange all of that. And now we do contactless deliveries, even though everybody's masked, but the driver sticks around, knocks on the door, steps back. So when the person opens up the door, they take the meals, but they're not touching, and they can still have a conversation. So everything we have done, hand sanitizer, I mean, so many, many, many different things that we've done to keep everybody as safe as we possibly could. And it's really important that we continue that, even now, as things may be shifting again, that we're still going to do everything we can to keep people as safe as possible, following CDC, New York State, and New York City guidelines.
I know God's Love We Deliver always needs donations, and you have a lot of remarkable corporate sponsors, and thank God for them.
Yes.
Do you still need volunteers?
We always need volunteers. We are doing, as I said, 10,000 meals a day, cooked from scratch, from fresh ingredients. We need people to help us in our kitchen. We need people to help us in what we call meal packaging, which is where the individual client's bag is assembled with the right meals for them. That's going to go out with our deliveries. Some people go out on our vans. We have people who work in our offices. We are very reliant and in love with our volunteers, because we're a relatively small staff across the entire organization. We're about 140 people, and we rely on the great hearts of thousands and thousands of volunteers every single day. Corporate volunteerism is still not back. And we used to have 3-4 corporate groups a day. We don't have that. So we are really reliant on volunteers coming in, showing up. Everybody needs to be vaccinated, but we can't do our work without our great volunteers.
When you say everybody needs to be vaccinated, do you need both doses,
Yes.
a booster?
No, we're not requiring a booster, but yeah, need to have both doses, unless you had a J&J vaccine, obviously, which is only 1 dose.
Okay, we only have a minute and a half left. What else do you need to tell our wonderful audience about God's Love We Deliver?
I think one of the things I'd really like to say is, as challenging as COVID has been for us, God's Love has continued to not only survive, but thrive. We've added new programs. We've updated our menu. We're expanding to some new space in the West Village because we've gotten too big for the number of desks that we have. We've increased our efforts at getting locally sourced and sustainable products. Like, we are really always looking for the best way to serve our clients. And so we want people to be part of that. We want them to volunteer. We want them to donate, of course. We want them to tell people about us. If you know somebody who is sick and unable to shop or cook for themselves, or their families, because we feed the families as well, let us know, call us, or tell the person to call us. We really want to reach people. And one of the things that happens when you're sick is you tend to get alone and isolated. So people don't even know that you're struggling. So if anybody's listening who needs our help, please call us, 212-294-8100. And the website is GLWD, God's Love We Deliver, glwd.org.
And I think that would be the easiest way. glwd.org. Thank you so much, Karen Pearl, for all you do. And when we come back, the amazing story of Ella Blumenthal, a 100-year-old woman who survived the Holocaust. Her story next, Q104.3.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.